Welcome everyone to another episode of the Campus Waterfowl podcast. I'm your host Derek Christians, and this weekend for our Collegiate Waterfowl tour, it is our last and final stop of the 22-23 hunting season and season 4 of the Collegiate Waterfowl tour. I am here in California hunting with some students from Cal Poly SLO and then also Fresno State this weekend. It's been a lot of fun so far. We went hunting this morning. We got another hunt to round out the weekend tomorrow, but we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in this podcast. And then I think we're going to also be touching on a lot of what it's like hunting in California. But then I think these guys have some pretty interesting stories that you guys might, at least you might find interesting. There's public land, but then there's California public land. I feel like you'll be able to witness that in some of these videos coming up here in the next week or two. I appreciate you guys tuning in to the podcast and supporting us all throughout this hunting season. Truly does mean a lot. It's been a crazy year, but can't thank you enough for all your guys' support. Another organization we got to thank is Kent Cartridge for supporting our Collegiate Waterfowl tour this year. They supplied a case of ammo for the students every weekend throughout the year, and I know they greatly appreciate that. And so hats off to Kent for helping them out throughout the hunting season this year. Other than that, I think we are good to get into this podcast. So
let's do it.
Matt, you want to start out with a quick intro?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Derek. Name's Matt Mosa, actually from Lodi, California. Go to Fresno State here, crop science major. Honestly, just love to be outside, love duck hunting, love everything about it. I would say I started when I was probably about 10. Grew up hunting California Delta. A lot of duck clubs over there, which is fun. A lot of private land, a lot of good river opportunities. But other than that, I mean, just throughout the entire state, I would say there's a lot of opportunities from up north, Chico area, the Buttes, all the way down here in the grasslands. So I would say the opportunities are endless, and there's definitely a lot of birds to be had, that's for sure.
No doubt. I'll introduce myself. I'm Hunter Jones, Cal Poly. I'm a student athlete out there. I'm on the football team. I'm a fourth-year ag business major, and kind of touching on what Matt said, just piggybacking on it. There's endless opportunities here in California. You know, I feel like when most people think of California, they don't necessarily think of duck hunting. Really here, I wouldn't. Growing up hunting, and I started hunting a little later than Matt. You know, I was more like 14, 15, but I was still growing up on the whole public land setting, and then, you know, having invites and things like that to private is really kind of been an awesome thing for me, and I've grown with it, and there's still so much to learn. So Derek, hit us with the questions, and we'll kind of go from there.
First thing we got to hit on is how in the world you two met, being from Cal Poly and Fresno.
No doubt.
Yeah, how do you guys know one another?
Yeah, I'll shoot, man. Yeah, dude. We went to the same high school. High school was awesome. That's where we kind of met each other, and freshman year, you kind of meet those people that share the same interests. And you were a lacrosse guy, huh? I was a football guy, but man, I don't know. There's something about duck hunting that brings people together, man. It's just in the blood. And we were both dudes who weren't in clubs, and we weren't really getting into those high dollar invites or anything like that. So we're like, dude, we're gonna tough it out. We're gonna hit the public spots and do things like that and do what we can. So we kind of bonded over that. And Matt, I'll let you touch on our relationship a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. We did meet in high school. Shout out to St. Mary's Catholic High School, Stockton, California.
Stockton, California, baby.
Yeah, so we met in high school, but I mean, besides duck hunting, I know this is like obviously a duck hunting podcast, but we also striper fished a lot.
100%. A lot of outdoor stuff.
Caught a lot of big stripers. There's a lot of big stripers in the Delta, a lot of big sturgeon, a lot of big salmon, bass. I mean, the opportunities are kind of endless. So, yeah, I'd say once we hit high school was the time that I kind of hit duck hunting pretty hard. Definitely started getting like the Refuge game and stuff. But, I mean, invites are obviously cool. I wasn't really born into a club or anything, so I just kind of, take what I can get. But it was fun. Definitely learned a lot in public, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of how, back to our relationship and how we met. It's kind of how we bonded. And, we started out hunting, and then we started fishing together, and then it kind of just became like a revolving thing, like whatever outdoor season was going on, if it's getting on the gobblers, the Thunderbirds, if it's getting on the gobblers, or if it's getting on the stripers, there's so many opportunities here being in that north end of the Central Valley here in California. I mean, it's really everything, especially especially the Delta. I mean, the Delta puts out, I mean, so much, anything from sturgeon fishing in the deep water out in the bay or up in those clam beds up shallow, or, you know, shooting ducks to I mean, to a certain extent hunting deer out there. It's really, there's really a whole bunch it has to offer, and you know, that's kind of how we met and kind of how we continue to grow, and it's been awesome. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
Who introduced you guys to duck hunting out here?
You know, for me, it was some family friends. You know, I had a couple buddies in high school that I started hunting with. You know, my dad wasn't the biggest duck hunter, but he was always down for the adventure, and he had a few buddies that did it, and you know, I'd get invites from him, and he did it a little bit when he was in college, and he kind of found that I had a passion for it. So, you know, I'd say there were some buddies like Matt and a few other guys. You know, there's some guys that go here, some guys that go to other universities that I'd say I'd hunt with here in California as a younger. But now, you know, as kind of you grow, you know, really it's just my family and Matt and a couple other guys that I met at Poly that I hunt with, and you know, I'd say it was kind of just a real small collective group of people that got me into it.
Yeah, I would say for sure when I was younger, it was just I actually shot my first duck in my buddy's club, and you know, I mean, everyone could probably agree. Ever since that moment I killed my first duck, I was addicted. So it's been a movie ever since then. I mean, I've been chasing him ever since I shot the first one. I've been chasing him, and we've been going hard at it, learning a lot. But yeah, it's been fun.
Your pops wasn't into it too much. He was more in the pheasant scene. Or...
Yeah, I killed a lot of pheasants with my dad, but mostly ducks. I kind of
mostly young guys, man, going up with the young dudes.
And I mean, the opportunities in waterfowl and this too, because I mean, like, it's nice to meet you, Derek. You know, doing
I
this
meet a lot of people. I feel like you
I
definitely.
didn't think, you know, when I was 10 I'd be doing this, and definitely met.
Still going, dude.
Definitely met a lot of crazy duck hunters. You know, that have taught me a lot. So it's cool.
You definitely lose some sleep over it. You know, you can rest.
Yeah.
You can rest when you're in the ground, man. And while you're still kicking, you got to do it while you can.
You know, several nights sleeping in the truck, but I mean, once you get in to do it right, it's worth the 2 hours of sleep, if that. So
yeah, no doubt.
One thing that kind of always interests me about California is just how diverse it is. The state is massive. It runs north and south, and so with temperature changes and just the different terrains and everything, habitats, it's like there's a lot going on in this state, and there's a lot of different things.
Oh yeah.
And with that comes a lot of different things you can hunt, obviously. And like last year we were hunting the Klamath Basin, and which is unfortunately it's been in the news a lot, and it's been super dry.
Bummer.
And being completely dry for the first time ever in its recorded history. And now this year back, hunting the Delta with you guys. And it's like people could come. I feel like we could come back every single year and highlight something different in California.
100%. We can target something different all the time
and make it interesting for people to watch.
No doubt.
Last year when I was up in the Klamath hunting with Cal Poly and Chico, they were talking about the refuge hunting, and the stories I was hearing from those guys, it's like I've never heard of. Like you hear about some of the public land, like Arkansas kind of gets the rap from like the boat races and stuff.
To the whole, and
then out here you got
backwoods.
They were calling them the rat races out in the refuge, running out to the blinds. You got the lotteries, kind of getting drawn for that.
Yeah, we can touch on all that. It's crazy, man.
But I want to hear from you guys what can you go into detail about how some of these refuge hunts and just the public land and everything, what it's like out here in California.
Yeah, I mean, I can start off and let Matt take it over, but I mean, as far as refuges go, there's California state refuges that are kind of littered across the state, and they start as far north as where you were at the Klamath, and that's the farthest north refuge. They kind of trickle down into the Sac Valley, just north of the capital here. There's a really solid handful. We're talking, Colusa, Delavan, Yellow Bypass, kind of that's an area we were kind of similar we were hunting today, off the river, which that's a whole other thing, so unique, getting boats in there and things like that. But, Yellow Bypass, I think I mentioned Sac Refuge. What else we got out there? We got Little Dry Creek, which is a really awesome place up there.
Yeah, the buttes, you start at Klamath, which is, that's definitely on my bucket list to hunt. I haven't been up there yet, but I've heard that's pretty gnarly. And then once you go south from there, you're pretty much what's called like the Sutter Beach, which is like Chico area, all the way down to like Willows, kind of that like Sacramento Valley area, and that shoots very well too. And then, there's a lot of rice. It's mainly rice, so the birds are usually feeding in rice. And then once they get through that area, they usually hit the Delta, which is right there, right next to the Yellow Bypass, kind of. And there's a lot of corn in there and alfalfa and stuff, so they kind of transition, and you can kind of tell how the birds, change late season.
Yeah, and they get in those refuges.
Yeah.
They'll go from there, private clubs, shooting back and forth, and that's what's so interesting about California. I feel like it's unique from different states. Is like, you got a lot of public land in other states, but like these birds, if you watch the birds and you put the scouting time in, like these birds rely so much on these state refuges, and there's such a process into that, and going south is, back to what I was talking about, when you start getting south of Sacramento and you start going down the state into more central California, in the heart of the Central Valley, kind of where we're at now here shooting in Fresno, you got Mendota, and then you go just north a little bit to the grasslands, and the grasslands you got places like Los Banos Refuge and Kesterson, and San Luis and the Bear Creeks, and there's just so many, and it's kind of interesting because they all have the same lottery process and applying and spending money. It's almost like putting your name in a hat every year, and people go crazy over it. But when you get drawn on a weekend and the birds are there, it's really cool. There's a ton of people. A lot of people call it Vietnam on the refuge. It's like everybody's shooting birds everywhere, especially in the fog. And then even going farther south, and I've never hunted it personally, but they got refuges like, I want to say Worcester, and there's a couple more. I'm not too familiar down there, but there's some even in Southern California that not many people think of in that LA area. It's like, many people think, LA, not much hunting, whatever. But
there is a few down there. Though.
There is a few. This year especially, there wasn't much rice throughout the whole Sacramento and Central Valley, and so a lot of these geese switched over to the green early, and there was a funny post, and some people were talking about, I don't know if you saw it, Derek, but there was a speckled-bellied goose at the Dodger game.
Oh yeah,
I remember sending photos and videos to Matt. I'm sitting at the bar having a drink,
and damn speck on the field.
I know, and I'm like, we're at the Dodger game, and the Dodger game's paused because there's a speck on the field, and I'm like, man, that's a tarbelly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was, and that's kind of a tribute to the lack of water this year, and that's something I'm sure we'll get into later with all the water we've gotten as of recently.
Yeah.
But we can touch on that too. But as far as the whole refuge system goes and down the state, there's so many opportunities like we touched on. So
yeah, to go off that, in the 2022-2023 season here, they didn't flood Klamath because California's, I don't want to get but politics.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, so. God bless us with some good rain this year, and then look, Klamath wasn't flooded, and now we had a major flood, so, hopefully that rice and all of our rivers and stuff and lakes will stay full.
Yeah, 100%.
Next year, so.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure you got plenty of questions about that, or,
like, I would say accessibility, and then too, like, just the amount of pressure on these refuges, like, on a lot of these people, waterfowl hunters, that seek public land and stuff, like these are the places that they're going. Like it's pretty hard to get permission in California.
100%. A lot of unfortunately, a lot of land in California that's private that these birds load up on is not hunted. Mm-hmm. So getting permission in California, especially as a college student, somebody younger, when you're asking somebody who's a lot of these people who own these places are elderly. They're above 60 years old, they're getting up there in age, and they don't hunt much, they've never had an interest in hunting, so they're thinking to themselves, well, why would I let, some college students come in and, jeopardize, doing something wrong with the property? And it's unfortunate, I think, that way, because, there's a lot of young kids that really have a want for permission, or a want just for the opportunities. They're very respectful. And man, we try ourselves, man. We go knocking on doors and things like that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But as far as pressure goes, it's heavy, and it keeps getting heavier as the season goes on. So, just to kind of touch in a brief detail on these, you can hunt these refuges Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And, there's a lot of adults who hunt, who have full-time jobs, and they'll save all their waterfowl hunters, they'll save all their sick time for waterfowl season, and they'll take off every Wednesday of waterfowl season. And so a lot of these times, there's a lot of older guys that go out to these refuges when it's not as crowded, when there's kids like us that have school, can't always make it out, or just the common public who has that 9 to 5 work day, who can't make it out on Wednesdays. And so that's when they see not as much pressure, but a lot of birds are shot on Wednesdays. As far as Saturdays, there's heavy pressure, but a lot of times with these refuges, similar to the one that we're going to be hunting tomorrow, it's sometimes good to have a lot of pressure. It keeps these birds moving around. And we were talking about last weekend, this refuge that we're hunting tomorrow is what was there, like 1,900 ducks killed in a weekend? Yeah,
in a weekend they shot about, I want to say in like 2 days, there's probably like close to 3,000 ducks killed. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. So
the numbers are there for sure.
And there, you just get these huge pieces of property that are all just flooded marsh, all flooded by the state, and they got check stations at the front and things like that, and they're always constantly uploading maps and new areas that are coming. And guys, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure, but really, if you put the time in and you figure out where these birds are and how they're utilizing these refuges across the state, it can really be, you can really have successful hunts. And, there's a lot of gentlemen, a lot of older guys that are, in their 40s, 50s that, I like to meet and make connections with and hunt with, because these are guys that have been hunting it since they're our age, and they've 25 years in the business of hunting the old, the refuges. And, they see a lot of pressure. They see more people, less people, more people, and they know these areas. And it's really unique. It really is, without getting into too much, but I've really enjoyed it. There's a ton of opportunity. If you hit it on the right times, like I'm hoping we do, it can be really fun and really, really productive. So. Yeah,
going off what Hunter said, I think with just experience and honestly, like your friend groups and connections, you can figure it out. You can learn it where you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You know spots. Different spots for different times of years that work, different weather conditions and whatnot. So it's definitely doable to have solid, respectful hunts.
You could be hunting one pond in October. A lot of guys, it's crazy, man. You could be hunting and killing ducks at this certain pond or a certain part of the refuge in late October, when the season begins out here in California, and you turn around and hunt that same spot 2 weeks later, the birds aren't using the place like they were. And so these different areas see pressure, and if you're a guy that knows this stuff, maybe this spot that was shooting well early is getting a lot of pressure, but maybe that's a good thing, because they put limits and they post some of the bag limits and the bird averages and things like that, and people will keep an eye on all this stuff. But really, the really successful hunters out of these refuges, they don't look at too many averages. They just know how these birds utilize these ponds as the year goes on. You know what I mean? And that's really unique. That's something that I haven't gotten yet, and I'm still learning. There's a handful of refuges that I feel confident at, but and I'm sure Matt can say the same. There's so much knowledge at these places that is to be learned. It's ridiculous.
And I know. I've seen guys honestly shoot, probably 4 of snow geese on public in California, which is 20 birds a person. So 80 snows on public land in California refuge is pretty
and they produce good. And they sometimes produce higher than clubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing is like here in California, we can only shoot 3 shells. We do have a late season goose, but we're not running mag extenders and all that. So
exactly.
But it's still very.
And that's a whole other thing itself. And that's another thing when you talk about shell limits on the refuge. You're only allowed. You're only allowed a box of shells. You can only walk in 25 shells, and that's something that you're checked for consistently by wardens that come out, and they'll watch you with binoculars from a distance. They'll even go as far as if you get a group of younger kids or they think somebody that doesn't know the area as well, they'll count your shells. They'll count your shells. They'll come out in the blind. They'll be dressed up like hunters. Especially if you're in a free roam area, you think it's just a hunter walking into your area. No, it's actually a game warden. They'll come in, search your bag, and they do get a lot of people. Unfortunately, there's people that sometimes you got a couple shells at the bottom of your bag, not on purpose, but hey, it happens to everybody. You can have that loose shell that falls from the bottom of your bag. It's one of your pockets. The warden comes up and checks you for shells before shoot time, and it's unfortunate, but that's what makes these places interesting is all the rules, the process you have to go through to put in for these places, to be able to be successful. And then, on top of that, you got all the pressure and all the different weather and everything. It's honestly crazy, but like I said, I wouldn't trade the learning experience for anything.
I'm not going to throw shots on private land. I love private land. That's
100%.
always a good time too, but I don't know. I think Hunter could agree. I think there's just something special about getting it done in public. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like if you get stack them on public, that's pretty badass.
I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot, especially being checked and just the whole process, and then even the lottery of getting drawn, and depending on what line you have to go in and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It just makes it more rewarding in the end if you do are able to walk out there with a few birds.
A lot of guys will go out there and you go out there and have a 3 or 4 bird day, and that's a successful day. And when you think about it, it's you're putting in a certain amount of money, and if you don't have the money, that's why a lot of college students, they don't have the money, and if their parents aren't interested in hunting, or their parents aren't in a club, or you weren't born into a club, this is a really unique opportunity to save a lot of money and to put the time in while you're young and do these things. And that's what's so awesome about it. And as you said, no shots on private, but there's a certain rewarding feeling that you have when you do get it done on public land. It's just different. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's like we had that experience today. We shot a few geese. We shot a handful of geese, and even though we didn't shoot the most or we didn't limit out, man, it's an adventure all the time. You're on the river. You got other boaters in there. You got other guys, and it's really fun. I really enjoy it. So.
Yeah, I believe in the motto. Was it banded? Just go, right?
What is it?
Is that banded, or it's like just go?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but
Sure.
I believe in that because like you said, everything's an adventure, and
You can't kill them from the couch.
You
dude.
can't kill them from the couch, and every time you go, you learn something new.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Especially at these refuges.
Yeah.
It's 100%. So.
Yeah, being able to adapt. I think that we were talking about that earlier this weekend.
Yeah.
It's just your ability to adapt and just
Yeah.
whatever Mother Nature throws at you, or whatever pretty much the refuge
Oh yeah.
throws at you.
Well, I'm glad we scouted on Friday.
Yeah.
To hunt the river on Saturday, because just briefly, we had an insane flood state, and California was in the state of emergency. And you mentioned there's probably people in the news out in the Midwest and the South hearing about all the water that's coming on the West Coast, and you see Gavin Newsom on the TV talking about the state of emergency. But people don't know we need this for our groundwater reservoirs and our groundwater recharge for all the ag that gets these birds into these places. But we scouted on Friday, and the water was 8 feet down from when I was here last weekend in 5 days. The river was 8 feet down, and it was unbelievable. Areas we were hunting that we could get a boat into, we can no longer get a boat in. And it was like, I was just like, hey man, thank God we didn't go up there on a Saturday morning in the dark and have no idea. Because there was a few guys that did that this morning and had no idea, you know what I mean? And I don't know how well they did, but that kind of attributes to it's always an adventure, no matter where you're at, especially in public land in California.
Yeah, definitely in the Central Valley too. The farming is endless, so the birds definitely use that, which is nice. I love farming. I'm obviously a crop science major, so it helps. And the water we got this year is very, very good. So we'll see what happens next year.
There's a lot, man. There's a lot. Yeah. It was cool, though. It was cool.
So I guess I need a rundown of kind of what I'm getting myself into for the morning.
Wow.
I've heard a lot of stories about these refuges, and especially the morning process, and how competitive it can be, especially tomorrow being the last day of the season, like the last
huntable. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the
Last
last day
Sunday.
for all refuges.
well,
The last day of
Like,
public.
yeah, as I mentioned, you
It
can
goes
hunt
to
them.
Tuesday, but
Yeah, exactly. You like I said, you can only hunt them Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. So this is it. You know what I mean? This is going to be
Yeah.
like, you got to throw the kitchen sink at them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And hope it
Yeah.
works out. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, this is the last straw.
bottom of the ninth, right?
I do bottom of the ninth. I know.
So I guess what am I getting myself into, and then what are the viewers going to be able to see in the video?
Yeah.
here comes.
So as far as refuge, I'll start off and I'll let Matt pick it up. You know, we're going to be hunting Mendota Refuge tomorrow. You know, this is more of a really central California refuge. You know, we're just about, an hour south of the grasslands, they call it, which is like Los Banos and
Right, hour
you know,
south,
places
yeah.
like Kesserson and those places. So this is a little farther south. This is really the farthest southern refuge before you hit Kern and Bakersfield, and then down into the refuges in Southern California. But as far as tomorrow goes, you know, I wouldn't expect anything shy of an adventure. You know, you're going to be checking in with all your licensing, all your awesome California licensing that, you know, you got to jump through a whole bunch of loops to buy all that stuff. And, they'll check you out, and, you know, having a number 3 reservations, you know, just briefly, there's reservations that you put in for that are drawn 17 days before the hunt day. And then you got lotteries the night before, but Mendota doesn't lottery. They just sweat line it. So
No, it's just sweatline.
they just sweat
Yeah,
line.
so-
And what is a sweat line?
You go ahead.
Yeah, so a sweatline is basically just a refill of the reservations or resis. What
Yeah. How many resis do they have? Like 100 reservations there.
I want to say it's something like
So
that.
yeah, so it starts off like so there'll be the 2 lines, and you know, and there'll be a reservation line, and you know, say it goes up to 100. I believe it's in that 100 ballpark range, and you know, they'll let a certain quota on, and you know, say a lot of times only half the reservations will show up. You know, because these guys that put in for reservations are either down from Southern California and they don't feel like making the drive with kind of a you know, lower resi pick, I'd
Right.
say, or they got another opportunity to hunt a club. You know, and then you got the sweat line, and the sweat line is like, the reason why they call it the sweat line is you're like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to get on.
You're sweating.
You're
Yeah.
sweating, you know,
Yeah.
you put in all that work,
Yeah.
you know, you're sleeping in the truck.
The car's on the
You got the
table.
dog with
Yeah.
you in the truck. It's like, there's a whole bunch. But I mean, the reason why they call it the sweat line is because, you know, you don't know if you're going to get on. So it's really based off how many resis show up. But
Right.
luckily enough, I mean, Matt drew the number 3 resi for Mendota on the very last day of the refuge season, which is just unheard of. I don't know.
I mean, even we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I mean, even just doing that alone is pretty high.
Oh, it's
pretty high.
I know it's awesome. So I mean, we'll be on the reservation line, and you know, we could be the first. You know, the first 2 reservations may not show up. You know what I mean? You never know. So we could be the first guys on, or you know, we could be the third guy on. But either way, man, it's going to be a race to the hole. You know, there's some holes on Mendota this time of year that I think shoot really well. And you know, Matt broke out the Schwinn, the parent Schwinn mountain bike.
Yeah.
He's gonna be
I'll be
the
racing
runner.
the
I'll let
hole.
you talk about the runner a little bit.
Yeah. So the refuge we're going to tomorrow is, I want to say, about 10,000 acres. So this refuge has no lotto. So other refuges like up north and like the Buttes and whatnot will do what they call like assigned ponds and all that. So this refuge has no assigned ponds. It's basically just like a free for all.
And when you say assigned ponds,
So-
you mean certain quota of hunters in a pond, or
Right, so
some of
yeah,
these
there'll be
refuges
like-
even have blinds.
There'll
too.
be like blinds or no blinds, which is just an assigned pond, tulip patches, whatnot. So this refuge is just free for all. So this is what we were talking about experience and whatnot. So if you have
Yeah.
experience at this place and you know what you're doing, you should do very well. But you know, honestly, if you're kind of a newbie, it might be a little tough. So
I mean, I remember. I mean, just going back brief into a story. When I first started hunting, I drew a number 2 reservation at Mendota, and this is my first time ever hunting Mendota. And you know, it's kind of like overwhelming. I remember talking to Matt about it, and I went down there with my brother and my dad, and you know, they start calling reservation numbers. What was it, 2.5 hours before shoot time, or
right,
And it's
there's a lot
hard.
of people, so they get the ball rolling early.
yeah, so they get the ball rolling early because they want to make sure all these people get on with you know, at least a half hour before shoot time, so they can set up, and you know, everybody kind of has equal luck when it comes to getting set up early. But I mean, I remember I typed in Mendota Refuge, and I'm a newbie hunter, and you type in on your maps, and I'm leaving from Stockton, so I'm leaving the house at 2 a.m. It takes a couple hours to get down there, and that's my hometown, Stockton. And I get there 2 minutes late, and they already started calling reservations. They're like, yeah, you have the number 2 reservation, but you got to go to the very back of the reservation line. Sorry about that. And I'm like, Google Maps didn't take me to the right spot, and I'm freaking out. And I'm like, man, what a first trip. And we ended up only shooting one bird, which is cool for your first time out. But I mean, it was just so overwhelming and so many people. But I mean, man, that's just a kind of a brief story of when I talk about Mendota. Matt's a little more familiar with Mendota, being from out here. What'd you say? You're like 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away from Mendota.
Yeah, I'd say.
Cal Poly's a little southwest, kind of more on the ocean, so we're about 2.5 hours. We sometimes hunt the bay out there, and I don't get as much refuge, but I'll shoot over the hill when I get a reservation draw. That's 17 days before. But I'm excited to be going with Matt and a couple other Cal Poly students. I think we may have another Fresno State student showing up, which will be really fun. But hey, man, it's chaotic. No matter if you have the number 1 reservation or if you have, if you're the 60th guy in the sweat line, I feel like you're sweating either way at Mendota, man. You're pushing the carts, you're throwing the heavy gear. Matt, we're gonna fly through the check-in and get some cool video in the morning, and make sure you guys tune in if you guys want to see the details, kind of how all that goes down. It's going to be a fun one.
I feel like half the video is just going to be like the morning process of like getting to the spot.
Oh man, it's a process.
Will be lit. Yeah,
it's a process.
There's
man.
guys. It's Friday night about 9:30 right now, and I guarantee you, I know for a fact actually that there's guys sleeping there right now. So.
Well, we got our we got a guy who helps out a lot with the Cal Poly chapter. His name's James Lowe, and Derek, you know him from I think 3rd term, and
he hunted with us last year.
He hunted with you last year up at the Klamath, and he's sleeping in the truck right now. So with this reservation, you can only take a couple guys on with you, and he wants to join us, and there's a couple others that want to join us out there. What'll make for a cool student hunt, but man, he's sleeping in the truck with his dog, and he's roughing it out, man. I got to give it to him, but. The last day, like I said, you got to go all in for the last day of the season. So he's going to meet us out there, and he'll be sweating, but we'll be sweating too.
Yeah.
Just get
you never
in the
know.
blood.
It's a free for all.
It's always something, man. I feel like there's always something that goes not wrong, but it's just like adversity in the morning, and and that's what makes it so rewarding.
Yeah, but and I'm not gonna lie either. Like I'm addicted to the chaos.
I know. It's
like half of it is this. You know what I mean? Like, because you go through all these hoops to even, get the hole that you want, and then if you get the hole that you want, you could not really shoot that many, or whatever. But when you do get the hole that you want, when all the stars align, it's awesome.
Half the money you spend is buying gear to get you ready for the process. We'll see some of it in tomorrow's hunt, but you got like refuge carts and sleds, and a lot of guys will buy a backpack, decoy backpacks because they're hoofing it on foot. Some places, you walk as far as 2-3 miles. How big this refuge is, and really, kind of the rule of thumb is if you can get away from people to an area that you've scouted, or buddies that have gone in before and shot well at this specific time of the season. Typically you're going to shoot a little bit.
It'll work.
It'll work. So, it's going to be a cool experience, and we're excited to have you on it.
I'm excited for the chaos to begin
It
tomorrow.
will be chaotic for sure, no doubt.
It's going to be a good morning, and then you get to fly back, and then that'll be the season.
I'm glad we can get you out here for the last one.
End it on a high note.
No doubt. And I know you. We had Derek in a pretty comfortable bedroom last night back in home. Now we're sleeping on the couch. We're talking about the car.
No dorm, no couch.
No dorm. I feel like you couldn't end it any other way. You got to be on a couch,
Yeah.
You got to rough it out. But hey, I guess it beats the truck, man. I've done a couple truck sleeps this year.
Yeah.
Those are rough. Those take a couple of years off the life, man. Those are rough. But hey, it's all part of it, man. You learn something every time.
Yeah, the season's been a grind, but learned a lot. Had some very, very good hunts this year. Probably gonna be my last hunt tomorrow, but
I agree. Same here. I don't really got the time to be hunting on Monday or Tuesday.
I know next weekend I'll be missing it, so we'll give her hell tomorrow.
Kind of on that note, we always. Kind of talk about some of the craziest things that we've done just to get a duck or a goose. Or
I hear so many people say it's just ducks,
Yeah. What are some of the things you've done, or what's one thing that comes to mind that you guys you've done to get a duck or a goose?
Man, there's so many damn things I can think of. I just, I don't even know. Where can we start, dude? It's like, I'd go from one sleeping in the truck. First of all, I don't know. I don't know many people that sleep in the truck. I know you sleep in boats and things like that. You get guys sleeping out on the river down in the south on the boat trying to hold down a spot. There's a fair share of that here in California. But man, we talk about putting in for places that are 2 hours away. You're leaving the house at 1:30 a.m. You're hitting the gas station, and I'm sure a lot of people experience this, but you're hitting the gas station, buying the energy drinks, and you're really burning the candle on both ends. I'm driving, when you talk about it's just ducks, shoot, we had Derek fly into SLO 4 hours south of 4-hour drive south of my house back home. We drove 4 hours north, hunted the river, and then we drove 2 hours back south. We're down here in Fresno with Matt. And these Fresno State cats, we're gonna try and get a good night's sleep and put a hurting on them tomorrow, and then we're driving 2 more hours back to the airport. We're gonna be all over. I probably put damn near 1,000 miles on the truck this weekend, but hey man, once it's in the blood, I know you got some crazy stuff. I'm sure you've.
Yeah, I would say the craziest thing I've done is probably honestly, just like you said, just miles on the pickup and no sleep.
You gotta have a well-oiled machine, dude.
I'm speaking for everybody, but it's the drive for sure.
You gotta have the well-oiled machine. To keep doing it, you trust a lot in the rig, in the car. In the morning, you do a lot of weird things, trying to get out to the refuge and.
Truck's been your home for a couple days.
I know, man. Oh God, it's
truck's completely filthy for 3 months and.
You got to give her a proper wash after the season.
What's something that comes to mind right away? This last hunting season.
Go ahead.
What do you think, dude?
I don't know. I've had a couple really good hunts this season. I've done some crazy stuff on public, some crazy stuff on private, both. In the fog could be good. I love shooting geese. A lot of snows and specks in California. I think they outnumber the ducks. I think a lot of people in California can agree, and I don't know, maybe Hunter, what do you think? I think a lot of the issue too is that there's so many geese that come down that they out eat the ducks.
Oh, they push. That's the whole point. You talk about the California mallards, and everybody talks about what you would do for a greenhead. You know what I mean? Like what are people doing? People go crazy over those, and unfortunately, with the Klamath being dry, that was a big spot for mallards, and using that Pacific flyway to come down, but. They've been pushed east, and that's why Idaho hunters do so well and shoot a lot of mallards in the Snake River. Quite a few guys that do that. Some of the fonder moments this year, we've got on some geese. We got a lot of water this year, and the California Delta is a strange place. I know we were shooting. I had a hunt where we shot 19 or 20 birds, and it was a mixed bag of mallards, sprig. The good old Aleutian goose and some specks, and we were hunting over tomatoes. We were hunting in tomato beds, and that was one of the situations.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like when you think, what are ducks doing in tomatoes and geese rather in tomatoes? But we were hunting this tomato field, and the little furrows or little tomato beds would fill up, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm standing in this 3.5-foot ditch. I'm standing there chest deep, but man, I'm hunting in some cool stuff. I'm hunting in tomatoes, and we ended up putting a hurt on them, and it's just like weird stuff. I'd say now thinking about it, the one thing that comes to mind hunting down at Cal Poly in the Bay is, when you talk about doing weird stuff, or one of the fonder moments I'll remember for a long time is this was just past year, the year before, but we hunted the Bay, and I got stuck up to my chest, and my buddies had to pull me out of my waders. I left the waders in the mud. I had to leave. I had to leave them for a little bit, and man, I almost had the tides coming up, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna lay where I stay. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
where I'm standing. And that was a crazy experience, but we shot a couple mallards. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for the green? It's I mean, I'm sure you've had some great moments. There's been a whole bunch this year.
Yeah.
But I will say this year with all the water and all the new opportunities for hunting and things like that, I've learned the most this year out of any year, which has been really fun. And me and Matt have been on a few hunts. We've been on a few okay hunts, and I'm hoping tomorrow we can finish it out strong. And like I said, I'm glad I get to do it with some cool dudes. So.
Yeah, for sure. This year's definitely been I think I've definitely hunted the most this year and learned a lot. So ready to get after it next year.
Hey man, it's one last time.
We still got one left, so we'll see what happens. But
those GGs in the chat, man. It's one last time. We'll see what happens.
Right.
Kind of wrapping up here. I'll kind of briefly touch on the DU chapter that I was handed to. I was really excited to be taking over Cal Poly's chapter. We've grew it quite a bit. Daniel Papp, you hunted with last year, and he was just hunting with us on today's first hunt, which was a fun one. I met him through that, and he's going to be a lifelong friend. And we've grown the members. We've grown about 25 members, and it's cool. We got a lot of young members, and as far as the whole social media thing goes, we got these cool new hats. I'm wearing one here. I got some on the table, a whole bunch of new colors. That's been huge for us getting the name out. We've had some local sponsors. We've had some local partnerships there in SLO, and we're doing events. We're raising more funds. We're growing. We're not nearly as big as any of those in the South, but it's a really good experience. I get to meet a lot of new people. We have about 50 members right now, and quite a bit of them are active, and we do shoots every week, and it's unique for the area. Down on the Central Coast, there's not a lot of hunters. There's really minimal hunters. There's really nowhere to hunt besides Morro Bay, and the rules and things like that are so tough, and especially for college students who they don't have much access to to things like boats and canoes and all that stuff. It makes it tough. It makes it tough to get a following and things like that. But I've really been sticking my neck out, meeting a lot of new people, a lot of new connections, and just continuing to grow. I've loved everybody that I met. I have some really cool people that I would say kind of on the board for the chapter, or that have ranked positions. Mm-hmm. Big time help. We'll be hunting with one tomorrow, and I know Matt. This is kind of a good gateway. I'm glad we got to get up with Fresno State and get out with them. I know they're talking about getting the DU chapter started, and I'm sure you can talk about it. But it'd be awesome that you guys rolling and continue to do some collabs throughout the California campus waterfowl tours as you guys come out. I think it'd be cool. So
yeah, it'd definitely be cool. So I'm actually graduating in May, but I think it'd be cool to start one. I've talked to you about doing it, so we'll see what happens. But I think Fresno State should definitely have one. So
yeah. You guys got more hunters than Cal Poly, and I think it'd be really easy transition. And I know the only two in the state right now are Chico and us, and it's really been fun. I know the guy from Chico. The guy taking over. I believe his name's Will Burden, and he's a cool guy. And it's really neat getting to connect with all these people. And we have a regional director and meet some of the other regional directors in some of these other areas, and taking advantage of the opportunities and meeting new people has been my favorite part about the chapter, and really just making it grow. Kind of making a statement with it and continuing to grow, and getting those young people in there is really what's going to make it pop, I think. So it's some good things coming for the Cal Poly DU chapter, and you got our full support for the Fresno State. You guys are just over the hill, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I really hope you guys.
If I didn't know you, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, So hey, I'm glad we get together. Some high school buddies just sticking together, and I never thought we'd be doing this and some social media stuff, and I'm glad we can meet up with you, Derek. Seriously.
No, I'm glad this was able to come to fruition.
Especially finishing the weekend in sunny California.
No, yeah. I made sure to finish the season strong. I've gone now 4 weekends in a row here in January, going back to
Impressive.
back to back.
Exactly.
To finish it out.
Exactly.
Just keep grinding.
So I know, in a couple of weeks I'm gonna miss it all, and as I grow up, I'm definitely gonna be looking back at this, and I'm glad I was able to. I get tired. It gets tiring and everything, but something that I'll be able to look back on for years.
It's a grind, but it's a fun grind.
No doubt, man.
We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't like it. So.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But Matt, yeah, if you need anything from me to help, if you want to get a DU chapter started here, I know a few people back at the office.
Just a few, huh?
Yeah. Get you started.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys would have an awesome following. I bet. It really popped.
That's the thing too, because I'm graduating, so I was in actually Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity, AGR. Shout out to them, but being a crop science major in the hunting world too. I mean, people are kind of hand in hand. They're farming and duck hunting and whatnot. So outside of that,
you guys have great donors here.
That's people. Yeah, everyone's kind of like-minded. So
I agree, and I think you guys would have a huge. You guys would have a huge donation opportunities, and really that's what it's all about. Ultimately is getting some funding to DU, and really for the conservation aspect of it. And I think that's what a lot of people that don't understand it, I think, should learn about. It's really not just about the hunting; it's about the networking, the funding, and really giving back to the ducks and their habitat essentially. So
we were just talking about on the way down here where. Yeah, we were kind of talking about DU and what it does, how much money the organization raises.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And they did release their, and full disclosure, I haven't even announced it quite yet on the Campus Waterfowl podcast. It's been on the social media page. Yeah. But for everyone listening, I guess, Campus Waterfowl, yes, it's been around since 2014. When it started back then when I was a freshman in college. I started as an intern. But then just over the years, and long story short, as from starting in June 2021.
Yeah.
So all of last season and this season, Campus Waterfowl has been acquired by Ducks Unlimited actually, awesome. And I was hired by DU to continue running Ducks Unlimited, or to continue running Campus Waterfowl, excuse me. And so now, this is my full-time job and everything, to be able to do this, travel, and to share the lifestyle of being a student and balancing classes, and then to go on hunting on the weekends.
I think it's an awesome move by DU. I mean, it's really just getting the younger generations going. Mm-hmm. It's got me hooked. I'm a volunteer of a university chapter, and I'm stoked. It's just there's just awesome benefits in the networking side of things and meeting new people, like we mentioned before.
But we were talking about on the way down here just how much DU does, and the dollar. It was, what was it? DU in the fiscal year
276. Was that
2022. It was. $276.6 million raised for wetlands conservation.
Insane.
And then there was a total of 655,000 members across the country, or in North America, a part of DU. And then we kind of went further into detail about how much of that money actually goes back into like the cause of DU, and looking at the percentage, it was 83% of that 276 goes back into conservation efforts.
270, yeah. I mean,
it was
if you just took 10% of 276, it's just unbelievable. Everywhere you look in the waterfowl world, DU is involved, and that's the biggest thing you talk about is just getting people to figure it out that DU just isn't involved directly with hunting. Mm-hmm. It's really a bigger picture. There's some awesome higher ups that you've mentioned to me that seem like really neat people to meet, and they whatever they're doing, it's working. So it's been cool to meet some of those people who are part of that process, and really just giving back to the habitat and really the ducks overall. That's the way I look at it. So
the biggest supporters of natural resources are the people that are using them, and most of the people that are using them are a lot of times are hunters, and you got fishermen and everything like that. Everyone that's out there buying the licenses to go use the resources.
No doubt.
So I think we're ready to wrap this up.
Yeah,
yes, sir. It's
perfect. All right. Well, that's gonna do it here at currently in Fresno, after we've been kind of traveling all the central.
We've been all over
Central California here. But no, I can't thank you guys enough for tuning into the Campus Waterfowl podcast, and watching the YouTube videos all season long. That truly does mean a lot. Can't wait to get started with the off-season content for you guys. I don't know if you are familiar, but last off-season we did a research tour where we go around and travel and find grad students and undergrad students who are doing waterfowl and wetland research. So we're in the field with them, and while students are doing research and they're explaining kind of what their research is about, what they're finding, and you guys get to see it in the field and see what it's like doing that type of research, and you get to learn a few things about waterfowl and wetlands at the same time. So hopefully we got some awesome trips planned for this off season.
Yeah.
And then I think we're gonna maybe try to do some of the university chapter banquets type deals, kind of highlight
That'd be awesome.
type those. There's some really big events that these students hold, even in the springtime, that need some recognition. So we're gonna hopefully make it out to those. But no, we'll be busy again this off season. But then before you know it, it'll be season 5 starting up in August. And I don't know if we're gonna start in Canada or if we're gonna go to North Dakota. But
Start prepping, man.
We'll figure it out.
Start prepping.
So,
Get your sleep now.
Yeah.
Get your sleep now, dude. That's
So,
funny.
but no, thank you guys for tuning in, and yeah, thank you guys for letting me come out here and spend the weekend with you guys to finish out the season.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah,
No,
I
and
appreciate
a
it.
huge shout out to Kent. That's
Yeah.
it was big for us this weekend. Really helped us save a lot of money. And shoot, I don't know about you, but I've been a Kent guy, and I we were talking to Daniel. He shoots Kent because of this. You know what I mean? Like I think Kent's the official college shot show. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, people would think I'm lying, but I've been shooting Kent for years. I
Yeah,
love
hey
Kent,
man, it's
so
quality.
yeah.
It's
Very
quality.
And it's cool that you brought it and stuff. So
Yeah.
It's
No
unreal.
problem.
So
Thank you.
we're stoked.
Thank you to
Big
Kent
thank you.
Festival.
Yeah, big thank you. So.
Awesome. Well, that's gonna do it here, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.